also a couple of people called me a day or so after the janazah because they were upset that we didn't allow the sisters to take a handful of dirt and throw it on the grave.
Okay.
Because the brother in charge, he said that it wasn't from the Sunnah.
All right.
Which we all agreed upon at that point. There was no argumentation about it. But then other people, like as I said before, a couple of people called me talking about that. And saying that it's a misinterpretation of the hadith where the Prophet disallowed the women from coming to the graves because of screaming and hollering, etc. So anyway, I just wanted to know if you could just elaborate on that a bit and give us some clarification on it. Because I told the brother that if you have some proof that is an allowable action, then bring it.
Understood.
But I haven't heard anything like that, and I don't think that, and I agree with what the brother did, and we agree with what the brother did.
طيب. Like, where's Dawood at? MIA? It'll make it easy. I mean, طيب. Dawood, if you're watching, give my salams, huh? Women going to the graves has several different dynamics. It's not just one dynamic. A woman going to the grave versus a woman following the funeral procession. They're two different things, but at the same time, they're connected. All right? If and when a woman can go to the grave, what's allowable, what's permissible, let alone what men are allowed to do at the grave. Certain practices which are baseless, certain practices based off of weak hadiths, and some practices that are from the Sunnah. So, to keep things brief, because it's a long discussion, scholars differ on a woman visiting the graves. Some say it's okay, recommended, just like for men, and others say it's unlawful, and some say it's a major sin from the kaba'ir, from major sins for a woman to go to the graveyard. So that in itself is a discussion. What are the proofs and evidences for those opinions? The Prophet ﷺ, what did he say about women who go to the graves? What did the Prophet ﷺ say about visiting the graves, etc., etc.? Then, following the funeral procession, can a woman be with the janazah? What do the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ tell us about that? We were forbidden from following the janazah. وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا. Atiyah said, رضي الله عنها, وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا. But it wasn't a harsh, strict forbiddance or prohibition. What's meant by that? Is that it's not from the major sins, or it's lawful, but it's makruh. That in itself is a discussion. Third piece is, when women go to the graveyard, with the opinion that it's lawful, that it's okay to follow the funeral procession, what will be a result of men and women being in one place? What will be a result of death, the emotions flying through the air? Brothers are broken down, let alone a woman. Okay? Let alone free mixing, slipping, falling. A sister falls, you help her up because you're right there. What some things that the woman being there with the man, what it could lead to. What it could lead to. So these are all discussions. All right? At the end of the day, if the woman is allowed to go to the grave, if she's allowed to follow the funeral procession, then while she's there, she is going to enjoy the same rights and responsibilities as a man. If it's lawful for her to be there, if it's lawful for her to go, then there's no discrimination between her and a man. Whatever's from the Sunnah, whether that's from the Sunnah or not, throwing the handfuls on the grave, is that authentic or not? That's a different discussion. What's important is what the men are allowed to do, the women are allowed to do if they're at the grave as a default. However, I think it's very important to look at the nature of the grave. There are hundreds of men. There's a lot of people at that janazah. It's slippery, it's muddy. Okay, you got people from out of town, people talking, this and that. There's a lot going on. Right, Sheikh? A lot's going on, right? So move the brothers out the way. Here come the sisters. You know, the situation has to be controlled. I'll say that. All right. I've seen women patient at the graves, and I've seen brothers falling, tumbling over at the graves. I've seen women holding their composure, and I've seen men losing their composure at the graves. So what's important is, if she's allowed to go, she should do what the Sunnah tells the visiting of the grave to do. Dua, throwing the dirt, covering, etc., etc. And if she's not allowed to go, that's a different story. If she is allowed to go, but the situation just doesn't allow her to go up to the tip of the grave because there's so many men. It's very crowded. The men and the women want to bump and mix with each other. Then that's a what? That's a different story. So my advice is, no matter what the case is, that whoever's running everything has to have the necessary fiqh and to weigh the situation. Some things that are lawful, but right now in this situation, la. Not because it's haram, but because of this, what happened. That's what I would have said. Wallahu a'lam. And it's a long discussion. Fadl Sheikh.
Sheikh, can you speak a little to the impermissibility of speeches at the grave?
Speeches at the grave?
Same. No, it's same. No, I'm saying that's
Eulogy,
my
speech.
yeah.
Clear. Understood.
Yeah, that's
Well,
exactly what
at the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave a reminder at the grave. That's authentic. He told the Sahaba about the punishment in the grave, the life in the grave, the reality of the grave. So giving a mu'idha, a reminder at the grave site, during, before, after, that's fine. There's nothing prohibited in that. There's nothing unlawful about that. Rather, that's from the sunnah, and it's a good thing because people, in most cases, they're open at the time of death. The heedless one is focusing. The one that's hard-hearted, street thug, tough, whatever, the girl who thinks she's cute and walking with the high-heel shoes, the death is none of that matters anymore. He was a thug. He's dead, right? He was cool. He used to dress like this. Now he's what? He's in the dirt. She was the prettiest, flyest. She had $1,000 high-heel shoes. Now she's nothing but dirt now. So it's a wake-up call, as the Quran clearly mentions. So that's fine. Now, a person giving a speech in which it takes them away from a reminder is a different story. A person who gives a speech in which they mention good or bad of the deceased unnecessarily is also going to be a what? That's a problem. And that's going to fall under, and that's going to be included in a na'yul jahiliyyah. And the Prophet ﷺ clearly forbade na'yul jahiliyyah. And the na'i of jahiliyyah was mentioning the virtues and the excellent merits of the deceased. He was generous, he was brave, he was a great this, he did this, he was the best camel rider, the best archer, the best horseman, the best keda, he was the best poet. The Arabs of jahiliyyah, when someone would die, the women themselves or the men, or they would hire professional speakers to mention the eulogies and to praise the dead. And that is clearly prohibited, and no doubt that can be from the major sins. All right, that's a fact. So in many janazas, you'll find many brothers or sisters, it starts off as a reminder or benefit, but it ends up in reality. So, Brother Mufti, we loved him, he was beloved, he was this, he was funny, he was keda, that's la. He's dead. May Allah have mercy on him. Listen, guys, we all know what type of guy he was. We all know that. Let's do our service. And that's it. So it's a thin line. And it's a very dangerous line. And there are many people who violate that line. And one of the reasons why they violate it, number one, is emotion. Emotion. That's a fact. People, they lose control because of their emotions. Secondly is lack of knowledge. A person may not know. Or person, he may have the general knowledge, but he doesn't have the fiqh. And the fiqh oftentimes is like an emergency brake. It's a reality. You may be tripping and this and that, but sometimes the knowledge that you have will pull you back at the last second. Like, whoa, stop, chill. Can't say that. Don't mention anything else. That's enough. So there's a problem that many Muslims have at many different funerals. I've seen it myself at many funerals. And my advice is the reminder should be for the living, and it should be concise. It should be right to the point. It should not be long and drawn out and emotional. It shouldn't be just baseless talk, and it should be a benefit for the living and a command to make dua for the deceased, for the dead, to take care of the rights of the dead, and to carry on their legacy. Anything that goes beyond that, of good, of virtue, of what this woman was, and there has to be worse than that. Not just a bid'ah, it's jahiliyyah. It's a problem. So may Allah rectify all of the Muslims. Next question.
I can't remember where I read it at, but they say it was the time when they used to hire women to well.
That's right.
Pull their clothes off,
It's a fact. That's a fact. And that's all from Jahiliyyah. The Prophet ﷺ in so many hadiths, he mentions that he's free from the woman who shaves her head, from the woman who rips her clothes, from the woman who scratches her face. A woman isn't allowed to mourn for a man more than the allotted time, the widow. A person isn't allowed to mourn for a person more than an allowed. That all of those things prove is that Jahiliyyah, the Prophet ﷺ had divorced that identity, that culture. It has nothing to do with us. All right? And like I said before, with janazas, marriages, and many other things, Muslims who don't have the proper knowledge, or Muslims who don't have the necessary emotional control, or Muslims who have more value for their culture than the sunnah, they end up what? Falling into that. And the shaitan, of course, he's gonna exploit that situation. Because it's a prime time for exploitation. People are emotional, and when someone is emotional, it's easy. They're what? It's easy to push them to doing something that's wrong. So we have to be careful. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Tayyib. Move forward. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah.
Further, Sheikh.
Sometimes lately, some of the Muslims, or they've been doing this, having viewings before the janazah,
Okay.
where they have like Christian viewings, and people go see the dead, and they, maybe their faces are uncovered, and they sit there for a while before they do the actual janazah.
Okay. What's important is after
And they're
the
Jews?
it's permissible to see the deceased after he's been washed and shrouded, before buried, before the prayer. It's lawful, but it shouldn't be open for every single person. A family member, someone close by, they want to see him. Khairan, there's nothing wrong with that. There's things that prove the permissibility of that, let alone something that prohibits that. But it should not be turned into a Christian funeral. That's the comprehensive answer for all of these different sub-issues. The janazah is supposed to be a janazah. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. On this day, I have perfected for you your religion. So the distinct nature of the Muslim identity is supposed to be there. Nikah, aqiqah, graduation, whatever it is. And of course, there are going to be issues of which there's difference. There's going to be room for certain things allowed. Some things aren't that strict. And then there are other things in which once you open up that door, Kalas, on a viewing, let me see him, let me kiss him, let me do this, let me take a picture with him, let me do this, or why not this? And he says something good, then I'm going to give a speech and say something. And the next thing you know, it's a full-blown what? Eulogy. Or it's a full-blown show. It's a full-blown this. So the deen, the sharia, it cuts off, rather it prevents the cancer before cutting it out, the cancerous cell. It prevents it. Sadd al-dhari'ah is one of the greatest principles of Islam, is to prevent vice. It's lawful to do this, but because it's going to lead up into something bad, the door is shut. And from that is the concept of different things in janazah, which you got to regulate. Women are allowed to do this, but because of so many women or so many brothers or the quality of the people, it's like, you can't do this today. Because next thing you know, one sister is going to throw dirt, then she said, wait, I want to say something. Then there's a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. The first one's dressed the right way, then the next one, next thing you know, it's out of control. So be mindful, that's what I would say. Next question, from London, UK. AS, Salam, do I have to maintain kinship with my brother's wives even though they slander me and try to ruin me for fun? Make dua for them, give them gifts. If they're nasty, you don't have to be nasty. Kill them with softness and kindness, and your reward will be the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Initials are from Boston, Massachusetts. Can a man marry a woman who doesn't wear hijab? If you teach her, instruct her, and then if you enforce Allah's laws, but be mindful of what you're getting yourself into. Many brothers, they marry sisters who have problems and issues, and then later on when the sister can't get rid of those problems and issues, they blame the sister. So just be mindful. Speak of those things before. Wallahu alam. AH from Queens, New York. Can I wear a sweater that has a hadith on it? There's no prohibition of that. SC from Jamaica, Queens. Sheikh, no names in the questions. AM from Schenectady, New York. Can you accept a gift from your ex-husband Accepting a gift from a Muslim is fine as long as there are no strings attached. Due to the delicate nature of ex-husband, be mindful. But for argument's sake, alhamdulillah, for argument's sake, that's fine. I.e. from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, can a nikah be done online? Yes, it can. A asks from Abbas Langley, UK, if one enters the masjid assuming that he has missed the congregational prayer and begins praying that prayer on his own, but during the prayer notices everyone getting up for the congregational prayer, is he allowed to change his intention during the prayer for tahiyatul masjid so that he has a chance finish the prayer and join the jama'ah? ID, Maharashtra, India. What is your understanding behind people from other faiths feeling spiritual in a way not mentioned in Islam? They can feel what they want to feel. They're free to feel what they want to feel. If they want to learn about Islam, you teach them about Islam. Their feelings they're free to, no one can control another person's feelings. There's no coercion in the religion. A asked from Abbas Langley, UK, what was the method of waste disposal at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Allahu Alam, I don't know the specifics of that, but life back then was totally different. Many products and containers that we have were unthought of back then. Okay, for something to be made of glass was very expensive and costly. Stone was expensive and costly. Wood was expensive and costly. Okay? Wallahu alam. AH, Queens, New York. What classes do you have at Masjid? It says Taiwanese. I guess it means Masjid Taqwa. Allahu alam. Abdurrahim. Initials. AB. Hayakallah Khalif Basha. Barakallah Fiq. AB from Jamaica, Queens, New York. What was Kufa like in terms of amount of knowledge during the time of Imam Abu Hanifa? Iraq in general was a center of knowledge, and Kufa was one of the great cities of that ilm, no doubt about that. AM from Uganda, Shukran, Afwan, Barakallahu Fikum. OS from Matthews, North Carolina. What is the Islamic ruling regarding hunting? Do you hunt to instantly kill after saying Bismillah? Hunting is lawful. It's permissible to hunt. And you're allowed to hunt an animal in a manner in which you would normally have to slaughter it. If that animal is wild or undomesticated, or you can't control it to slaughter it in the normal conventional way. There are rulings of hunting that you have to learn, just like anything else. Saying Bismillah, do you slaughter it after you hit it with the bow or the shotgun or the rifle or whatever the case may be? There's rulings of hunting. AH from Queens, New York. Someone has to go to school and COVID vaccines are mandatory for an answer now. Can that person write a religious excuse for themselves? If you feel that you have a valid reason not to get the shot, according to Islam, get the letter. Malik Ali from London, UK. Can you explain the hadith of Ibn Abbas where the Prophet ﷺ asked for pen and paper and said he would write a statement, etc., when he was on his deathbed since he's illiterate? When the Prophet ﷺ says, I will write for you, it could mean that he would tell someone, he would dictate to someone, and they would write for him. Wallahu alam. RW from New Britain, Connecticut. What advice would you give to two people who are looking to get married but have strict parents? Respect your parents, make dua for your parents, and benefit from their strictness. Sometimes strictness is a virtue. Strictness is a good thing sometimes. It keeps you disciplined, or it's a filter. A father that's overly strict and overly protective, sometimes he can prevent you from potential bad suitors. All right? Don't run away from the nature of the people, as we mentioned in last week's khutbah. Accept it and try to make the best out of it. VT from Bronx, New York. Sheikh, hayakallah. Jazakallah khairan for the lessons. What is said about joining Jummah with Asr because of inclement weather? Alaikum salam wa barakallahu fikum, Ibn Victor. Yajuz, inshallah, is lawful according to many scholars. Brooklyn, New York. Muhammad, next question. SA from Jamaica, Queens. A scholar said whoever memorizes and understands the Quran and Bulugh al-Maram Zad Mustaqan is a faqih. Do you know of any other quotes of scholars that say if we memorize certain texts, Allahu Alam. SM, Trinidad, San Fernando, is sauerkraut permissible to eat? But in the night time, it's lawful. And there's a reason why they're asking that. Like many other foods in which have fermented ingredients, sour ingredients. Wallahu alam, inshallah is permissible. CB from College Park, Maryland. Are there 6 books easily accessible online? If so, where? Jazakallahu khairan for the HadithDisciple gear. 6 books of hadith, you mean? Yeah, you can find so many different versions. Apps, PDFs, online translations, Urdu, English, Swahili, all types of stuff. Many services have been made for Kutub Sitta. Ahmed, New Jersey. Assalamu alaikum. How can we advise college students? We've done many lectures on college students before. Why did you skip my question? I don't know. Brooklyn, New York. Muhammad A. Salam. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Is it allowed for me to shave my beard so I can be a firefighter and save lives? Jazakallah khairan. Don't shave the beard. I've had a brother come to me in Medina. Wallahi, this will be our last question. A real life story. Was in the Prophet's Masjid's library one night after the class, and it was Hajj season or Umrah season, one of the, I think Hajj. And we were up the stairs, reading, studying, and another student asked me a question about something we were reading. And we had another Haji with us, and I translated into English, and it came up about the beard. And I was explaining to the brother that the beard must be kept, and it's haram to shave it. It's impermissible to shave the beard for a Muslim man, etc., etc. So all of a sudden, a brother who I didn't necessarily know, he was, a couple chairs down, he's from America, and he started speaking English to me. He said, really? He said, I'm a firefighter. I'm from such and such, and I have to wear the mask, and they make me shave the beard. I always thought it was wrong, but I just heard you explain. He started crying right in the library. He started weeping like a baby. And he's saying how bad he felt. And he felt like a bad Muslim, and he didn't feel like a real Muslim for shaving his beard, so on and so on and so forth. What should he do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the moral of the story is, if you have enough courage, if you got the guts to grow your beard, which so many Muslim men don't have, it's an unfortunate reality. We're not talking about Muslims who think it's okay to shave for one false reason, but people who know it's wrong, but they just don't have the courage for work, their wives, their culture, whatever it is. I'm afraid someone's going to call me a terrorist. I'm going to be picked on if I have a beard. I'm going to be profiled in the airport. They're going to look at me funny in a cab if I have a beard. All right, they don't have the courage to do it. Like many of us don't have the courage for other things that we're supposed to be doing. So if you have the courage to grow your beard, and you know that it's the correct thing to do, grow your beard. And I would say leave the job of firefighting or any other occupation in which the beard has to be shaven for Muslims who already shave their beards and don't have a problem with it. It's a reality. There are plenty out there. Different Muslim sisters, they bring up questions with regards to hijab. If I take this job, I can't wear my proper hijab. There are plenty of Muslim women who what? Don't hijab. And they have no problem taking that job. And they're good Muslims. They still love Allah, they love Islam, but they just have a weakness. Like so many of us have weaknesses. Some more than others, some more public than others, some more outward than others. So it's no need to give a fatwa saying, yes, you can shave the beard to wear the COVID mask, you can shave the beard to wear fire. There's no need to give that fatwa. And that's because we already have 1,000 beard shaving brothers that can what? Do that. It's no need to tell the person who wants to wear the hijab or wants to grow the beard, you can shave it because of this. La. And there are many different fatwas like that, which I don't agree with, me personally.
Yeah.
Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
You said there are people that are getting fatwas to shave their beard so they can wear a COVID mask?
Oh yeah, especially when the pandemic first came out, the kind that fits over your mouth. Yeah, it's a fact. I had one brother contact me. He was going to medical school, and it was a certain type of mask that he had to buy, very expensive, and it required for him to shave his beard. And he spoke to the directors of the school, etc., and they told him there was another type of mask that was even more expensive, but would allow you to have your beard. But as he was about to, take those exams and go through that process of his education, they said, no, you can't have the other type of mask. So he had a big, major problem. They promised him this, later on they jerked him. All right? It's a big problem. So there are many types of masks that prevent a person from growing their beard, or in the military as well. Somebody makes the argument, says the beard is a hazard. Someone can grab your beard and pull your beard. Maybe. Possible. Wallahu a'lam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.